World War II. The Hitler,
My German comrades,
who had conquered Western Europe in 6 weeks. Britain was battered but unbroken. Then Hitler made the mistake that would destroy his army. On June 22, 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Over 3 million German soldiers crossed the border. Hitler called it Operation Barbarossa, named after a medieval German emperor. His goal was Lebensraum, living space for the German people in the East. He believed the Soviet Union would collapse in weeks. He was wrong. At 3:15 a.m. on June 22, 1941, German artillery opened fire along a 2,000-mile front. The Luftwaffe bombed Soviet airfields, destroying thousands of aircraft before they could take off. The Soviet Union was caught completely by surprise. Joseph Stalin had ignored repeated warnings that Germany would invade. He thought Hitler would not attack until Britain was defeated. When the invasion came, Stalin retreated to his dacha. He did not speak to anyone for days. The Soviet people panicked. The German army attacked along 3 axes. Army Group North advanced toward Leningrad. Army Group Center advanced toward Moscow. Army Group South advanced toward Ukraine and the Caucasus. The Soviet front line shattered. The German Luftwaffe controlled the skies. Soviet pilots fought bravely but were outmatched. Within weeks, the Luftwaffe had destroyed over 4,000 Soviet aircraft. German bombers ranged deep behind Soviet lines, destroying supply depots and troop concentrations. German soldiers were confident. They had conquered Poland in weeks, France in 6 weeks. Soviet resistance seemed weak. Many believed they would be home by Christmas. One German soldier wrote home, "We will be in Moscow before the snow falls." In the first 2 weeks, German panzers encircled and destroyed entire Soviet armies near Bialystok and Minsk. Over 300,000 Soviet soldiers were captured. The road to Moscow seemed open. The German advance was faster than anyone had predicted. German panzer divisions moved faster than the Soviets could react. They would punch through Soviet lines, then race ahead to encircle enemy forces. The Soviets, lacking radios and coordination, could not respond. Entire armies were trapped and destroyed. On July 16th, German forces captured Smolensk, a key city on the road to Moscow. Another 300,000 Soviet troops were captured, but the Germans had suffered heavy losses. The Soviet army was bleeding, but it was not breaking. The advance slowed. In September 1941, German forces encircled Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. The Battle of Kiev was the largest encirclement in military history. Over 600,000 Soviet soldiers were captured. A German soldier wrote, "The columns of prisoners stretch as far as the eye can see." The Kiev encirclement took 2 months. German generals wanted to march on Moscow immediately. Hitler insisted on capturing Ukraine's resources first. His decision would cost Germany the war. The precious summer months were wasted. In October 1941, Germany launched Operation Typhoon, the final drive on Moscow. The Germans advanced through mud and rain. Vehicles got stuck. Horses collapsed. Soldiers marched through knee-deep mud. Moscow was 50 miles away. Then winter arrived. The German army was not prepared for winter. They had no winter clothing. Tanks would not start. Guns would not fire. Soldiers froze to death. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees. A German general wrote, "Our offensive has been swallowed up by the Russian winter." On December 5, 1941, fresh Soviet Siberian troops launched a massive counterattack. These soldiers were trained for winter warfare. They wore white uniforms. They knew how to fight in the cold. The Germans were pushed back. Moscow was saved.
soldiers, you will not retreat. Hold the line. Fight to the last man. No surrender. Victory or death.
As the German army collapsed, Hitler issued a no-retreat order. Generals who retreated were fired. Soldiers were told to fight to the death. The line held, but thousands of German soldiers froze to death in their positions. The German army never recovered. The German army lost over 500,000 soldiers in its first winter in Russia. Countless tanks, trucks and aircraft were abandoned. The dream of quick victory was dead. The war in the East would now last for years. Hitler had lost his only chance. In summer 1942, Hitler launched a new offensive. This time, he aimed for the Caucasus oil fields. Stalingrad, a city on the Volga River, stood in his way. Hitler became obsessed with capturing the city that bore Stalin's name. Stalin issued Order Number 227, not a step back. Soldiers who retreated were executed. Penal battalions were sent to the most dangerous sectors. Blocking detachments machine-gunned fleeing soldiers. The Soviet army would fight to the death. The battle for Stalingrad became a brutal fight for every street, every house, every room. Soldiers fought with knives, shovels and bare hands. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg, rat war. At night, Soviet snipers picked off German soldiers one by one. While the Germans were trapped in Stalingrad street fighting, the Soviets prepared a massive counterattack. Operation Uranus struck the weak Romanian and Hungarian flanks. The German Sixth Army was surrounded. 300,000 soldiers were trapped. The trapped German soldiers starved. Their ammunition ran out. Hitler ordered them to fight to the last man. The commander of the Sixth Army surrendered. 91,000 frozen and starving German soldiers marched into captivity. Only 5,000 would ever see Germany again. After Stalingrad, the Germans tried one last offensive. The Battle of Kursk was the largest tank battle in history. Over 6,000 tanks fought near the Russian city of Kursk. The Germans had new Tiger and Panther tanks. The Soviets had T-34s and prepared defenses. On July 12, 1943, near Prokhorovka, the two tank armies collided. Over 1,000 tanks fought at close range. The battle lasted all day. When it was over, hundreds of tanks burned on the battlefield. Neither side had won, but the German offensive was stopped forever. When Allied forces invaded Italy, Hitler was forced to cancel the Kursk offensive. The German army never again launched an offensive in the east. From now on, they would only retreat. The Soviet army would not stop until it reached Berlin. In June 1944, the Soviets launched Operation Bagration. It was the largest Soviet offensive of the war. The German Army Group Center was destroyed. Over 300,000 German soldiers were killed or captured. The Soviet army advanced hundreds of miles toward Germany. As the Soviet army advanced into German territory, they took revenge for German atrocities. German civilians fled in terror. The Nazi propaganda had warned them. Now they were paying the price. The war had come home to Germany. The Eastern Front was the deadliest theater of World War II. Over 10 million Soviet soldiers died. Over 4 million German soldiers died. Over 15 million Soviet civilians died. No other front came close. The Eastern Front was where the war was won and lost. By early 1945, the Soviet army had reached the Oder River, less than 50 miles from Berlin. The German army in the east was shattered. Millions of German soldiers were dead, captured, or wounded. The end was near. Hitler had invaded the Soviet Union expecting victory in weeks. Instead, he found Stalingrad, Kursk, and the destruction of his army. The Eastern Front had destroyed German military power. Now the Red Army was coming for Berlin. The reckoning had arrived. In Part 4, the war in the Pacific, Pearl Harbor, Midway, Iwo Jima, and the atomic bomb, the war against Japan. This documentary is based on historical records from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, the National WWII Museum, the Russian State Archives, and academic sources. Follow Echoes of Time for Part 4 of World War II. The war in the Pacific is coming. Subscribe so you never miss a chapter.